Good morning, everyone. What will you be this Advent? What will you be? And they're like, well, you could take a lot of angles there, Father. What are you talking about? Well, will you be busy? Will you be stressed? Will you be preoccupied? Will you be vigilant? See, the scriptures are saying to be vigilant and really to ready ourselves. So these first 2 weeks of Advent, and again, it's a time of preparation. It has a penitential character to it, but it's not necessarily a penitential season. So there should be some penance that we're doing, but it's not like Lent that's preparing us to orient ourselves towards the glory of God and the resurrection. Here, we're orienting ourselves to the incarnation, the gift of the manifestation of who we are, sons and daughters of God, that God would actually take flesh and come into the world. He is the image of the invisible God. And so are we going to truly celebrate Christmas in a whole new way, in a deepening our relationship with Christ, or is it just going to be another holiday? It's good things. We have all kinds of traditions, food preparation and decorations, and those are, I'm not putting any of those down. I think they're wonderful things. But if we're not preparing our hearts, if we're not giving into this invitation that the church is asking us to do, to be vigilant, in other words, to go deeper in our relationship with God. Now, let's review quickly last week, but before we do that, I did want to say we've got a new position in our servers. So first of all, it's just wonderful to see, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8 servers. We've got 3 of our young people in the back there. I'm talking about middle school or high schoolers, okay? And then we've got a high schooler up there, running our live feed. So it's really good to see our young people involved in the church. The new position in the altar servers is alchemist. Okay? You know that? So the mixing. So with regards to this incense, and I know the 11 o'clock is the incense mass. So if you don't like incense, then you can go into the quiet room, and you'll be all right, and you'll be able to see, but you won't be affected by the incense. But our young people, they like fire, okay? So we want to stir that in them. But I got a variety pack, and I think it's 10 different incenses. So now they get to mix their own incense. So today it was Ben. So Ben, I think it's a good smelling incense. You might have some people here that don't like it, but I think it was a good mixture. So the other thing is, there's 2 things that you got to look at, because and I'm going to get them a mortar and pestle. But you have to have powder, some of the incense to be powder, because soon as you put it on the coal, there's a big puff of smoke. All right. So, and does anybody know why we have incense? Okay, what the symbolism is? It's from the Old Testament. Okay, the billowing smoke rising up to heaven is supposed to be a physical representation of our prayers. And of course, it's not literally our prayers rising, but we are a human being. Okay, we're not a spirit trapped in a body. Okay, we're a body-soul composite. And our experience of God is through the body. And so whether it's the look of things, or the smell, or even the taste, as we come and we experience God's embrace in the Eucharist. Okay? So these are all these things. Anyways, wanted to share a little bit about that. Remember last week, Christ the King, and he hasn't come to rule us, to tell us to bow before him, in his power, he's come to free us from the rule of sin and the second death. And so, out of love, he frees us by laying down his life. He gives us, through grace, the power to find something in us that God has placed in there, and then to give it greatly. And then, out of love, and not obligation, out of love, we bend the knee to our King. And there's the invitation. Now, today we're talking about vigilance, and we're all going to be busy. We got to buy presents, we got to do this, we got to do that, and that's fine. But the invitation from the gospel is to be vigilant. And how are we going to grow in our relationship with God? How are we going to prepare ourselves, our hearts, so that when we experience and celebrate Christmas, it's going to be something more heartfelt, where we're going to actually have an encounter with the living God, and not just the celebration of a holiday. That's the invitation. Now I want you to think of a time in your life where interiorly you were motivated to be vigilant. Something. Was it your children? Was it your grandchildren? Was it a niece or nephew? Was it a job? Was it, college or graduate school? Something where you had committed, you could have been in the middle of the night. You would wake up and you'd be right there. What is it? Think of something. Now, for myself, when I thought about that, I actually thought of an instance when I was 14. So, in that particular time, my mother, who was a psych nurse, and then now she has a PhD in social work, but back then, she was an RN, and she worked in an inpatient facility, in a locked unit. And there was a need to take a job for more money, and that meant she was away at night. So my parents had divorced, and so my sister and I, we were kind of home alone. And you don't hear about that these days. I mean, for goodness sakes, they can't walk a block, home from school these days. But I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying it was a different time back then. But I had a pet that was sick, and I had to get up every 3 hours to give this pet their medicine. Okay, she was very, very sick. It was a guinea pig, all right? A long-haired Peruvian guinea pig named Heidi. All right, so I think about it. We used to give them baths and everything else, clean their cage, whatever. So she's sick. I've had her for about 5 years now. The vet says she needs to have the medication every 3 hours. So mom goes to work. It's 9 o'clock. I give Heidi her medicine. So it's 12 o'clock. I wake up. I have my alarm set, and I wake up. And remember, I'm 14. And I give the guinea pig the medication. And then at 3 o'clock, I wake up, and I give her the medication. And at 6 o'clock, I wake up, give her the medication. And at 7 o'clock, I wake up, get ready for school, and go to school. And we did this for about a week, okay? Eventually, the guinea pig did die, and that was a little bit traumatic, for me in the middle of the night. But it was kind of one of those things, okay? And God gives you the grace. But I tell you, I was vigilant. I love that little guinea pig. What were you vigilant? With whom? Again, was it a job? I mean, I want you to think of a specific instance and hold on to that, because if you get into that that motivation and that vigilance, then you'll know what God wants from you and me in the arena of prayer in this Advent season. See, because what he desires is us more than anything. And you know what? We don't really think about it all that much, and we don't realize it, how much God is waiting. He's waiting for us just to direct our gaze and to actually pay some attention to him. He really is. And there's the invitation. A step of vigilance. Maybe it's an extra prayer before you go to sleep at night. Maybe it's an extra prayer before you as you get up in the morning. Maybe I'm going to pop in and go to adoration during the day. I don't know what it is. But rest in that moment of vigilance and realize that the heart of God would love for us to give that type of vigilance to him.